Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Hello and welcome, everyone. We have a few people trickling in. We're excited to get started with this TipJar virtual event. And just by way of introduction, my name is Dylan Sellers. I'm your host today. We'll be diving into some best practices with privacy compliance testing. And super excited about this topic. It's a topic I've been engrossed in since I've come to ObservePoint and been involved in the customer success team. And I've been involved with several companies that are pioneering with privacy compliance and consent management. So a little bit of just background about this event. We are going to be hosting this event on a regular cadence this year. So stay tuned as we announce other installments, other episodes. And this is all about making sure our customers are successful. And your success is our success. I want to emphasize that. So that's what TipJar is all about. And we're going to dive into just a fun topic today. I'm excited for you guys to be part of it. So my name is Dylan Sellers. I'm the head of customer success here at ObservePoint. The topic of today is testing privacy compliance, the cookies you didn't know were there. And I think we'll see some surprises. Well, you might have some raised eyebrows today through the content that we share. And there could be a little shock and awe, but I want you guys to approach this topic with humility, because I know many of your websites and many of the companies you represent are going to have opportunity to improve your own privacy compliance today. So as we dive in, just keep that in mind. And if you have questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat, and we'll have a Q&A session at the end. We'll also do a little exercise and hopefully get some audience participation to test your own website today. And we'll do just a simple browser test, but we're excited about you guys starting to take action and see some results on your side. Okay. Before I jump into the full topic, I just want a quick plug for those of you hoping for a deep dive in cookie governance and more about like what cookies are and the anatomy of cookies. There's an awesome webinar we hosted just a few weeks ago. It was hosted by Cameron Cowan from our product team, Mike Fong, one of our senior solutions engineers, and then Dave Smith, our CTO. And Dave he's a webmaster and goes deep into what cookies are, what people should be thinking about with cookies, the history of cookies. And if you go watch that webinar, you're going to leave a lot more confident, and you're going to just be that much more confident that you're able to approach conversations about cookies, because legal teams and privacy teams are going to be knocking on your door if they aren't already to ask you about cookies and about the technologies on your website. And the more you know, the more prepared you'll be. All right, quick agenda for today. We're going to talk about why test privacy compliance. We'll be very quick because I think most of us understand this. For number 2, we're going to talk about testing cookies in the browser. And then number 3, we're going to get into testing cookies in ObservePoint, talk about how we take this to ObservePoint and we scale it. And then at the end, we'll wrap up with an exercise and then Q&A. So let's dive in. Before I just say anything more, I'll say this is not legal advice, official legal advice, but this is good advice. And you guys should consider, I'm not an attorney or lawyer, but I do try to collect as much information and best practice from the clients I've worked with. I've worked with over 100 clients on this particular topic. And I've seen hundreds of cookie consent banners. I've seen hundreds of ways website manage and handle cookies and cookie tracking. So I'm speaking from experience here, and hopefully some of those recommendations make a difference for you today. All of us are familiar with why we should be testing privacy compliance. I believe the key bullets here are: avoid the massive fines, protect your brand, and protect your customers. Every single one of us is a part of a digital community, and we are all consumers of some website or content on the web. And so when we're fighting for the protection of the privacy of our customers, whichever brand you represent, organization you represent, we're also paying it forward. I think it's going to come back to you as those brands are trying to protect you. So I want us to link arms and remember that we are a community here, a digital community, helping each other and protecting each other. So you're familiar with GDPR and CPRA or CCPA, but you may not be familiar with all the legislation that's coming. and the legislation that already exists out there. So there's a lot of legislation that's it's a hot topic, it's in the news, but there's legislation that protects people everywhere. It just may not be as highlighted or spotlighted in the global media or in the news. But we basically have privacy laws covering almost the whole earth. We have specific privacy laws that are more aggressive and are more prescriptive of how you manage cookies. If you look at the US, here's a map that we pulled from the IAPP website showing the current state of legislation in the United States and the status or progress of these different states as they come on board with their own legislative processes. And you can bet that they're going to do pretty similar carbon copies, or at least borrow from what a lot of California has done, or borrow from what GDPR has done. That's what we've seen is not exact parity, but we've seen a lot of similarity. And what you should be thinking here, as you see these blue states start to go green, is we have more legislative bodies, we have more attorney generals offices that are going to be enforcing privacy. And that should raise a little bit of concern. It should help us all just feel a little bit more of a responsibility to be prepared. So the point I want to make here is that privacy compliance and privacy legislation is coming like a tsunami. And most of us are not going to be like this person about to go hug the tsunami. We're going to be running away from the tsunami and getting to safety. And Observe Point is going to be one of those life rafts, those safe havens for you. And as we provide insights and help protect you, help you identify those problems or areas of exposure on your website. Okay, let's get into testing cookies in the browser. And then afterwards, we will get into testing cookies in Observe Point at scale. I'm going to switch over to this other monitor here, and we're going to walk through an example. And you can see that this example is going to be, one of the examples we're going to go through is Marriott.com. This is one of the largest hotel chains in the world. They certainly have a global presence. And I want to put in this caveat, before we go and judge Marriott, I want you to know that I basically just took a sample of the Fortune 100, and I sampled a handful of websites, and I'm going to highlight 2, maybe 3 if we have time today, but 2 websites at least in the Fortune 100. And because we respect the confidentiality of our customer relationships, I did not pick customers. These will not be customer accounts of Observe Point. But I want you to also, again, approach this with humility, because I'm going to ask you later to go and test this in your own browser, and you are going to find probably some areas to improve as well. And I've actually done in the past the past month or so, I've done a pretty intense, we've done a pretty intense rollout of our privacy solution. And I've seen, in the Fortune 100 alone, I've probably seen 20 or 30 web pages that had what would be considered probably unauthorized third-party tracking on their home pages after opting out. And so that's just in the sample so far. In my personal experience, I've only seen 2 websites on planet Earth that are doing it quite well. And one of them is OneTrust. And the other one I don't even care to mention, but it's the people that are really focused on privacy. So there's going to be areas to improve, and I want you guys to consider that. Before I dive into these Observe Point audits that we've set up, I'm actually going to walk you through how to test this in your browser. And then I'm going to do this as slowly as possible to make sure you can follow along, because this is super crucial that you understand these principles I'm about to share. So I'm testing in Chrome in the browser, and on the top right corner of Chrome, you can see an icon representing your profile. And if you click on that, you'll see that profile and information, right? At the bottom, you'll see the ability to add to that profile. You can add other profiles, I should say. You can see here I have a couple of profiles. I'm going to click add, and I'm going to continue without an account. The reason why I don't sign in is because that would mean I'd have to associate this profile, this test profile, with a Google account, and I don't need to do that for this purpose. It would be unnecessary. So I'm going to go straight to continue without an account, and I'm going to call this, I'll call it TipJar Cookie Tester. Super simple. I'll pick a nice color, and I'll hit done. What this does is it's going to launch a brand new Chrome profile with no browsing history. If we go back to my other Chrome profile, this Chrome profile has 1,874 cookies. The cookies I use to log into ObservePoint, social media, other accounts, that's all being stored here in the browser. 1,874. One thing I want to call out is if you go to ObservePoint, I'm going to pull in another window here, and you go to the application ribbon, you are not going to see 1,000 cookies. You're going to see just the cookies that are in use in my current window. And so a lot of people falsely or wrongly assume that this is the source of truth, that this is where I can find the list of cookies active in my browser. And they very often make the mistake of coming here and saying, oh, the cookie is not present, or it was not set in my browser because I'm not seeing it here. It's very, very important for you to understand that this is about active cookies. One way to demonstrate that is if I just go to google.com, you're going to see a very different set of cookies, right? These are the ones in use in my browser now. Okay, I want to make that distinction so that the next part, it's very clear what we're looking at. So if I go back to ObservePoint here, and I'm going to go to that test profile. So I'm switching between modals here, by the way. So, or monitors, I should say. In this test profile, before I go and surf the web, I am going to go to Marriott.com. But before I do that, I'm actually going to go and pull up the source of truth. I'm going to show you where to find all the cookies in your browser. There is on the top right corner here, 3 dots, and you can go click those 3 dots and hit settings. On the top left corner, you can go to privacy and security. It's not quite in the corner. It's three rows down here. Hit privacy and security, and then go to cookies and other site data. If you're following along, I'll go a little bit slower. Cookies and other site data. Now there's a lot of cookie settings that your browser, you can configure here in your browser, but I'm just going to go to see all site data and permissions. This is here at the bottom. See all site data and permissions. Once I go here, I'm going to see that clean slate I was talking about. This Chrome profile only has Google cookies because Google sets them up at the very beginning, but even these I can delete. And if I refresh here, you can see that as I refresh, there are no new cookies appearing. Okay. Now, because I'm in this browser, if I open a new tab, and we're going to go to Marriott for our first example, we are going to see cookies appear. So I'm going to have Marriott. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to split my screen here. I'm going to have one on the left and one on the right. So you'll have Marriott on the right-hand side. By the way, I am using for this example a Chrome, a VPN. So I am proxied into California using a San Francisco proxy. I like to do this because it just guarantees or it increases the probability of me being able to find a cookie banner when I need to find one. So here at the bottom, sure enough, I have this tracking preferences option. Okay. Before I even get into tracking preferences, though, I'm going to refresh on the left, and you're going to see we have some cookies. We have doubleclick.net, which is associated with Google Ads remarketing. You have Google, Demdex, which is associated with Adobe Audience Manager, cookielaw.org, ad server, app.link, etc. Okay, so I have several cookies here, and I have a lot of first-party cookies, which are under Marriott.com. Okay, to see the actual values of these cookies, I'll show you one more tip, which is you can install, if you go to the Chrome extension store, you can install something called, I think there's a few Chrome extensions, but the one I've used recently, this isn't an endorsement, but it's Awesome Cookie Manager. I've used this one. It's pretty simple, and it makes it so that I can see the values of these cookies, which from here, you can't actually drill into the values. So that's just a pro tip. You can have that, that extension as well. I'm going to make sure it's pinned to my browser because we'll use it in a moment. If I click on this, you can see, again, all those cookies that I currently have active in this browser, including the Marriott ones, and you can see the values. The names, and then if you drill into them, you can see the values. So there's a lot more you can do within this little Chrome extension, but that's the part I'm just going to highlight right now. As I'm gonna go now into testing this. So let's see if Marriott's consent modal works. Let's see if their cookie consent settings work. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm actually going to open the tracking preferences. I'm going to go to functional. I'm going to toggle this off. I'm going to go to advertising, toggle this off. I'm going to go to analytics and toggle this off. I could also hit reject all. That's another option. And then that's another way to toggle everything off. And then I'm going to hit confirm my choices. Before I do that, on the left-hand side, I'm going to refresh the page. Looks like I've gotten a couple, another cookie, 3 cookies since then, since I initially loaded the page from YouTube. And if I refresh, it could be a couple more loading, but it's basically settled. So I'm going to let I'm going to go ahead and now clear all the data here, including the first-party cookies. And what we should see is when I confirm my choices, Marriott.com should set a first-party cookie that tracks my consent. It should make sure that it keeps track of my consent preferences. So I'm going to hit confirm, and I'm going to refresh the page on the left. And what do you see? You see 9 cookies, 9 first-party cookies. So that's great. But now as I navigate the website, we need to figure out if more cookies are being set. More third-party cookies are being set after my consent has been confirmed. My consent preference has been made. So if I go into register now, one of these call to actions, let's just see what this does. On the right-hand side, I'll click register now. It takes me to another window. And on the left-hand side, I'm going to refresh. Okay, so since hitting that call to action, I've now acquired an app.link cookie and a demdex.net cookie. All right. I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to click find and reserve, and I'll click find a hotel. Let's see if I find any more cookies. Okay, now I have a Salesforce cookie and Force.com cookie. And then let's say though, let's also wipe this slate clean. Let's get rid of these cookies. And then now I'm going to go to the homepage again. So just Marriott.com. Okay, I'm back at Marriott.com. Now I have Salesforce, Force.com, app.link. Okay, so the point here is that we have cookies that come back that are set. And actually, I tested this last night. Their website's a little bit different. It's a little bit inconsistent because last night I was also seeing YouTube and several other cookies. I'm going to go through another example with you. I'm actually going to, it's really easy once you have this test profile set up. I'm going to go to another company that you guys have probably heard of, which is Xfinity. And I'm going to refresh the page on the left. You're going to see, some third-party tracking. And I'll just clear this again. I'm going to go to the bottom, and I'm going to go to cookie preferences. I'm going to toggle all these off, and then I'm going to hit save changes. Just before I hit save changes, I'm going to clear all the cookies again, just to make sure there's no more third-party cookies. Looks like we're good, and hit save changes. Okay. Now, after making that change, I'll refresh the page, the page on the left. I see 22 Xfinity cookies, one of those being my consent cookie. Now I'm going to refresh this page. And then on the left, what happened? I got ad server, ad nexus, AKGN, ad system, Amazon ad system, Bidder, Bing.com, Demdex.net, DoubleClick.net. I got Twitter, Yahoo. I got a whole slew of third-party cookies right after I chose to opt out. And there's a lot of things at the bottom here. Terms of service, California Notice Act collection, privacy policy, your privacy choices, ad choices, cookie preferences. Clearly, Xfinity has good intent here, but something's going on where there's a disconnect between their intentions and what they're actually what the experience is for consumers on their website. So here, this is just I think it's a really clear example of where companies, they don't do the due diligence. And that's what Observe Point's about, is helping you audit and really discover the truth. After you've opted out of cookies, what is actually happening? Which cookies, new cookies, are still being set after that user preference has been stated. I'm going to do one more example. And this is Cardinal Health, also a Fortune 100 company. And I'm going to go to the bottom, and I'm going to go find cookie policy. And then there's this cookie settings option. I'm going to toggle off performance, excuse me, toggle off functional cookies, and toggle off targeting cookies. Before I hit confirm my choices, let's refresh the screen on the left. I'm going to clear all the data, so there's no history here. And it looks like one more cookie came back because it's still loading. Just to be clear, make sure it's totally clean. And then I'm going to hit confirm my choices. I'll refresh. I got that first party cookies, those first party cookies with my consent. I also got a bonus cookie, which actually with interacting with that consent banner, I got a LinkedIn cookie. And then now I'm going to go into the homepage and I'm going to refresh. What do we have? We have Bing, demdex.net, doubleclick.net, Everest Tech, which is another Adobe technology, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Okay. So something's up. There's a disparity between the intentions of Cardinal Health and the reality on their website. Okay. Hopefully those are some exciting examples. The exercise, if you guys are hopefully following the exercise now, is going to be done by you guys. But before we get into that, I'm going to show you a couple of things. With ObservePoint, to do this at scale, what we do is we actually configure these audits to use a California proxy. We can set a scan limit. You can scan as much up to 250,000 pages. We recommend scanning a significant sample of your website because the farther you go on your website, the more likely you're going to find the corners where you're not compliant. But home pages are where the majority of traffic comes on many customer websites. So for sure, that homepage needs to be buttoned up. But there's going to be other pages that are high priority pages, high traffic pages you want to be compliant to. I'm using California proxy here. There's other proxy options. And then I'm going to use set up what we call pre-audit actions to execute those actions that opt out of cookies. So I basically completed those actions. I clicked tracking preferences in the footer. I cleared all the cookies just before I clicked reject all. And I simulated a user opting out prior to the scan. And notice I clear all the cookies just before I hit that reject all button, just before I confirm. One more thing I'll call out, which is a brand new feature we released last week, is sending a GPC signal. You may have seen an in-app announcement about this, but this is another way for you to test, and it's a really important test case to see if your website is adhering to the GPC signal. GPC stands for Global Privacy Control. You can click here to go into a help doc. One of the landmark landmark lawsuits that has set a precedent for the importance of GPC is the Sephora case, which came out of California. So there's about a $1.2 million fine there with Sephora, and GPC was referenced in that lawsuit. So you now have the ability to go set up an ObservePoint audit, and this actually does not require pre-audit actions when you have the GPC signal on. So just bear that in mind. You do not need this toggled on in order to support that test case. So that's how we set it up and configure it. You can set up a GDPR cookie opt-out audit as well. That one, you simply use a London proxy. No pre-audit actions are necessary. And then there's the GPC audit, which I use a California proxy, and then I enable the GPC toggle. So that's how we set this up in ObservePoint. And if you look at the reports, you can start to see. In fact, I'll look at the GPC example. You can start to see the results, and you can dive into, you can see the number of cookies. There's still a lot of third-party tracking we're able to find on just a 10-page audit. And you can find the pages, exact pages where those cookies are found. For example, this LinkedIn cookie. And then you can get into specific pages. All this data is exportable. All this data is shareable. And there's a lot more you can do from here. One of the most important questions, most common questions I get asked is, okay, how do I resolve this? How do I go to resolution? And to resolve any of these cookies, cookie issues, we are going to be releasing we have planned on our roadmap, a cookie initiators feature, which we're hoping to release as soon as possible, but it's planned for this year. And that cookie initiator feature will give you inside the reporting, the JavaScript file or the tag or network request responsible for setting that cookie. So stay tuned. If that sounds like something that you want, go ahead and say it in the chat, and we'll make sure your vote is counted towards that feature. And we'll put you down and let you know. We'll try to let everyone know through in-app announcements when that's released. Another way to find that is through the network ribbon. You can go into the network ribbon inside of your browser, and you can search how to set it, how cookie was set. I'll show you one example real fast, and then we'll get into the exercise and Q&A. So I'm going to go into the network ribbon. Let's search for LinkedIn. .com. I'm going to pull up my window over here. In fact, actually, I don't think I need that for this exercise. What I do need to do though is just clear all cookies. Then I'll refresh the page. Actually, I think we did double click for this one. Hold on. There you go. Double click. Within these network requests, there's usually a set cookie header in the response. So this is getting maybe a little technical, but this is how you would find the cookie initiator today. You can find out this network request is responsible for setting this cookie. Pretty easy to search for, and just a tip there. So the exercise I want each of you to do: go to your own website today. You may not have time during this webinar, but go to your website today, right now. Go and test your cookie banner. Create a Chrome test profile and use this for your testing, and then share some of those results. And let us know if you're surprised, and reach out to your customer success team if you want help on the next steps. If you want help setting up the audit that helps you get a more comprehensive view of your website, and we'll go from there. So that's the exercise. I did demonstrate 2 or 3 times on multiple websites, so I feel confident that if you didn't get it, you can watch this recording later. But hopefully that gets you puts you in a position where you can go and test and share this with others. We're gonna go to Q&A. Tyrone says he needs cookie initiators. That's fantastic. Tyrone Battle. Let's see, Bethany had a question. What does it mean when you first navigate to the page and a lot of cookies have 0 bytes? That's a good question. The 0 bytes, it could be indicating a few things. It could be that cookie isn't necessarily storing a value currently, but it could also mean that it's just not significant enough to be counted as a single byte. It could be rounding down. So good question, Bethany. I think as I'll follow up on that one and see if we can get a more firm answer. Advantages of profile versus incognito. Mark Haley asks. So Mark, one of the key things that I demonstrate today is that incognito windows, the profile is needed to be the source of truth. Incognito windows are still going to be associated with your Chrome profile. In fact, right now, this window right here is my personal Chrome profile. And if I go to incognito, and if I go into settings, and I go to privacy and security, cookies and other site data, and see all site data and permissions, notice all this is within my my account, my Chrome profile again. So the problem with incognito is they actually still point you back to here when it comes to visualizing that source of truth. So you're going to want to use that Chrome test profile. Incognito can help you with a window, like resetting the browser history and caching, etc. But this is definitely a better, more reliable solution. So Scott Coulter asks, how do we know which cookies are strictly necessary versus other categories? That is a great question for a legal team. I would say that for those of you who are trying to take a stab at it, though, that you can generally use observe points tags as a reference. So if the cookie says it's from doubleclick.net, you can either use our cookie initiators feature, which will be coming down the line, or you can do some research and find out which vendor is responsible. Like personally, I know that that's Google Ads remarketing. So that tag, if you know the nature of that tag is remarketing or retargeting customers, then you'll pretty quickly identify that as a targeting cookie, right? Now it's case by case. What I recommend, Scott, hop on the phone with your customer success rep and get their input. But also work with your legal teams, because they've likely, whoever can implement your consent management, or whoever is really spearheading your web privacy compliance initiatives, they probably have a decent list or a decent categorization that they've built out. Laura Reed asked, out of curiosity, do you know who Marriott uses as their CMP? Good question. I think in all the examples I gave, they were using OneTrust consent management, and it's not necessarily a knock on OneTrust, because these could be implemented poorly. There could be hard-coded or rogue or piggybacking tags that OneTrust doesn't control because it's limited to the scope of your tag management system and that integration. It could be that there is, so we talked about human error, rogue and piggybacking tags, hard-coded tags. There's also a very common issue or very common root cause for cookies, and the source of cookies is sorry, I'm blinking. Common cause is, it's multiple different tech stacks across your website. So different subdomains have different tech stacks, different tag management systems, different CMPs. And when we do an audit, we see lots of subdomains with different technologies. And so it's not consistent. Very, very tough challenge, I think, for a lot of companies I've worked with, is making sure that that consent cookie is recognized and respected across all the subdomains. So we did have a cookie database resource shared in the chat here. If you want to reference that, there's a few out there that can help you categorize cookies. But again, you're leaning on someone else's categorization. Your own legal team's interpretation is probably the best. But we do our best here to follow some basic guidelines. Like if it says it's analytics or if it says it's advertising, we can fairly easily categorize those. So great questions. Just looking through the list to make sure I didn't miss any. I don't think I did. Again, cookie initiators sounds like we got Allison wants it. We have Tyrone wants it. I think that would be an awesome next step for us at ObservePoint. And an awesome next step for you is to go and test your own websites, test your home pages, test a couple of your key pages, and then set up that audit. And you guys hopefully will see a lot of success. Hopefully we'll have a lot of very positive conversations and get the word out about the reality of privacy on your website. So I'll go ahead and wrap up there. If you guys have any questions, feel free to stay on or drop off. But that's today's webinar.